Every time I come out here, Vinny's doing a job and you're holding his hand.
Me and him split everything. We started yesterday.
Get your hands dirty for a change. Do some welding and grinding instead of watching everybody else do it.
Every bike that needs to get built gets done. Everybody's working at all times. And you know what? 10 years. This is the kind of stuff we've been dealing with for 10 years.
Every time I come out here, Vinny's doing a job and you're holding his hand. Me and him split everything. We started yesterday. Get your hands dirty for a change. Do some welding and grinding instead of watching everybody else do. Every bike that needs to get built gets done. Everybody's working at all times. And you know what? 10 years. This is the kind of stuff we've been dealing with for 10 years. After building Orange County choppers into a TV empire, Paul family Teutul Jr. lost everything in a heartbreaking family war. His father demanded $1.5 million from his own son. His brother was forced to choose sides. But there did come that time where you and your dad kind of parted ways. I mean, he fired you. He did. At the time, it was really tough, but when I look back, it was the best thing. And when Paul became a father himself, he realized the true cost of their famous feud. I found a lot of unforgiveness and understanding towards my own father because of having my own son. Today, the man who built America's most famous motorcycles reveals the painful truth behind the cameras, and why he hasn't shared a holiday meal with his father in 15 years. Most kids in the mid-80s were busy riding bikes, watching cartoons, or playing Nintendo. But Paul Teutul Jr. had a completely different idea of fun. At early life, just 12 years old, he was already working in the heat and noise of Orange County Iron Works. While other kids were at the beach, Paul was sweeping metal shavings off workshop floors and running tools to grown men welding steel. Even before that, he used to visit his dad's shop site and collect scrap pieces of metal like they were toys. He'd arrange them into little sculptures, dreaming up creations from what others saw as junk. That early exposure shaped everything. By the time he was 14, Paul was already welding with a calm precision that even the seasoned guys respected. He wasn't just picking up skills, he was learning how to think like a builder. But life in the shop wasn't all sparks and glory. His dad, Paul Sr., had a reputation for being intense, and he didn't go easy on his son. In fact, he was often harder his dating him than anyone else. Junior couldn't get away with small mistakes. If something went wrong, he'd get yelled at in front of everyone. Some thought it was unfair, but Senior believed it would make him stronger. As the years passed, their personalities clashed more and more. I also think that the show did a lot of damage with the family. Paul Sr. liked brute strength and old-school methods. Paul Jr. had a more artistic eye and preferred clean lines and perfect detail. One summer, Junior redesigned a railing to make it both stronger and better looking. His dad dismissed it at first, but a few days later, without saying a word, he approved it and used the design. That moment said it all. Vocational program deep down, there was respect. But it came with a constant to-go-for. While most high schoolers were cramming for math tests, Paul Jr. took a different path. He joined a vocational program that let him spend half his school day learning mental work. He studied welding techniques, blueprints, and how to read the stress points in steel. One of his instructors said he had a rare gift, like he could see how metal wanted to move before even touching it. Junior spent hours beyond class practicing every weld, every cut until it felt natural. He knew he didn't need a fancy degree to succeed. He just needed to master his craft. When he returned to his father's shop after graduating, he wasn't the kid sweeping floors anymore. He was a skilled fabricator who spoke the language of the pros and backed it up with results. By 19, Paul Jr. was leading the railing division at Orange County Iron Works. Orange County Iron Works, that's not a small job. The department made up nearly half the company's income. Most would assume it was family favoritism, but the truth is Junior earned it. He expanded their design options and gave the shop a modern edge. His designs were so popular, customers were willing to pay more and wait longer just to get something crafted by him. He also had to manage a crew of workers much older than him. Some of them were veterans, some skeptical at first, but over time, even the toughest ones admitted he knew what he was doing. So, what are you thinking? Are you thinking about using an Indian motive? He had taken a metal shop and turned it into something people talked about. That kind of respect doesn't come easy. Still, something was missing. After years of building stairs and railings, Junior felt boxed in. He Orange County choppers wanted to build something that moved, something alive. That spark lit up when started secretly sketching motorcycles in an old notebook after long days at work. Around that time, his dad got back into bikes too. It started casual. Senior asked Junior to help him build one. But when Paul Sr. saw what his son had drawn up, it shocked him. It wasn't just technical, it was art. That day, Senior looked at his son and said, "Let's build bikes for real." Not as a hobby, as a business. It wasn't just about motorcycles. It was about fixing something much bigger. The years of distance between them. With about $175,000 scraped together from Fee Family's ironworks business, they officially launched Orange County Choppers. But it wasn't equal. Senior kept 80%. Junior got 20%. It didn't matter yet. They had nothing but a dream and a cold basement full of tools. But within months, the bikes they built started getting noticed. Their first one, True Blue, took them 4 long months. Late nights, endless welding, and blue paint with white flames. It looked like it came from a big-time builder, not a frozen garage in upstate New York. When they brought it to Daytona in 1999, jaws dropped. They weren't nobodies anymore, but success didn't come easy. In 2000, they were building bikes in a tiny, freezing workshop. Tools broke. Suppliers wanted cash up front. Money ran out fast. Paul Jr. often worked 18-hour days, sleeping on a couch in the shop just to stay on schedule. They fought constantly, big yelling matches, not for show, but for survival. Every bike they sold barely covered costs. Yet, they kept going. Not because they had to, but because they couldn't stop. Then in 2002, a phone call came. A TV producer named Craig Pelagian saw a magazine feature on their bikes. He was scouting for a new reality show. When he called, Paul Sr. picked up and barked, "What the hell do you want?" The producer pitched a show about restoring junkyard bikes. Sr. shut it down instantly. "Family friction, we build them from scratch," he said. The deal almost died, but weeks later, the producer came back with a better idea. Film the real process, arguments and all. Paul Jr. hated the idea. He feared the cameras would ruin everything. He even wrote his dad a 5-page letter saying, "They'll make us look like fools." The contract was insulting. $5,000 per episode, endless camera retakes, and lighting so hot it messed up their welding. At one point, producers suggested calling the show Family Friction. Paul Jr. nearly walked, but they needed the money, so they signed. When American Chopper premiered on March American Chopper 31 SD, 2003, no one expected what came next. In just 3 episodes, it exploded. Over 3 million people were watching each week. Suddenly, they weren't just bike builders, they were stars. Their tiny shop turned into a tourist attraction. Merch flew off shelves. Discovery Channel made $13 million in sales in that first season alone. The two tall had to move into a massive $12 million facility just to keep up. At first it was Paul Sr.'s temper that pulled people in. But it was Paul Jr. who kept them watching. Fans didn't care about the drama. They loved watching him build. Junior's designs were magic, silent, focused, and precise. In fact, One scene of him building a gas tank with no music or talking became one of the most requested clips ever aired. Welding schools across America saw enrollment spike. They called it the Polly effect. Then came the bike that changed everything, the Black Widow. The Black Widow wasn't just a bike. It was a statement. A spiderweb gas tank, custom wheels, 167 hours of pure craftsmanship. When it was unveiled in New York, 15,000 people packed in to see it. Security had to hold the crowd back. Soon they were selling model kits, shirts, video games, you name it. Over 280,000 model kits sold in 6 months. It made OC a brand, not just a shop. When Paul Jr. finished building the fire bike in June 2003, it wasn't just another chopper. It was a turning point in his career. He wasn't just making a motorcycle. He was building a tribute to firefighters who lost their lives on September 11th. And that meant every part of the bike had to carry meaning. One of the most powerful details was a real piece of steel from the wreckage of the World Trade Center. Paul didn't hand that off to someone else. He welded it himself. The jagged piece of metal was attached to a diamond plate bracket made just for this bike. It was the final piece and the most emotional. But that wasn't the only challenge. The design was so ambitious that he had to completely redesign the bike's frame. It needed to support 343 hand-painted emblems, one for each firefighter who died. That kind of weight, both literal and symbolic, required serious engineering. And when the bike got into an accident the next year, the New York Fire Department didn't treat it like a normal crash. They responded personally, carefully recovering the damaged bike like it was a fallen comrade. That's how much it meant. Even now, it sits in OC's museum. It's been to over 248 events. People tribute bike to still show up, get emotional, and leave personal notes and tributes beside it. Years later, Paul Jr. would revisit the pain and power of 9/11 with another project, a second tribute bike. This one was unveiled on January 20th, 2011. And the reaction was overwhelming. It wasn't just bikers who showed up. It brought together people like New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg and the president of the 9/11 Memorial. Paul had been asked by Daniel R. Tishman, a board member of the memorial, to build something unforgettable, and he delivered not just one bike, but two. One stayed as attribute. The other was raffled to raise money for the memorial. People bought tickets online and in person, and all the money went straight to support the 9/11 museum. That day, when the cover came off the bike, people cried. Grown men, families, tourists, everyone was hit by the emotional weight of what that machine represented. The design told a story without saying a word. Even the Huffington Post ran a full feature on it, spreading the message to people who could be there. But behind the flashy paint and polished chrome was something even more impressive, his technical mind. Paul Jr. wasn't just designing his technical mind pretty bikes. In 2012, he quietly introduced a game-changing technique into the motorcycle world. He began using T-spling, a tool that made it easier to design smooth curved shapes. What used to take over 40 hours now took just 15. And when he built an electric bike with Autodesk, the method was essential. Soon, other shops started using the same technique, often without realizing where it came from or giving credit. Then, in 2015, Paul did something that shocked even his team. He created a system that made motorcycle frames lighter, but just as strong. It completely changed how they built customs. And he didn't stop there. He taught himself how to write G-code, the programming language for CNC machines. Before he was just the guy designing the bike. Now he could control the machines too. He went from artist to the trouble between Paul Teutul Jr. and his son machinist, handling both the creative and technical sides of the build. The trouble between Paul Teutul Sr. and his son didn't explode overnight. It started quietly in 2007 when Senior gave Junior a 20% stake in their company, but kept full control for himself. At first, it looked like a fair setup. Father runs the business.